Hello everyone, my name is Fraser Waldron, and in this video, I want to talk about the trade-offs between pursuing relationships, family, friends, romantic, etc., and really focusing that as your priority in your life versus the opposite, which is maybe pursuing a life of adventure, living for the story, putting your career as the number one thing, etc., really pursuing that materialistic lifestyle perhaps, but that call to adventure on the one side. I've done both, and I want to report back on my experience, and maybe this would be relevant for you too, because there are some people that live in one bucket or the other their whole life, but I've kind of done both, and I want to contrast between the two because I think there's a happy medium in between that will be the best for human flourishing, or generically saying human happiness, or happiness for me anyways. So the first contrast, and then just to break it down, the first bit I'll talk about how originally when I left home to go to university, I really focused on relationships, both romantic, friends, and family. And then I had a call to an adventure, and I went on that adventure, but I lived for the story. I lived for the esoteric experience, going around the world as much as possible at the expense of relationship. And then now I've come back to a position where I'm in a healthy medium, which I think is the ideal place to be. And I'm hoping that if you listen to this video, you'll just naturally go to that one versus being on either end of the extreme. So so that's it. So originally when I left high school, I went to play football in university, and I had an immediately large friend group. I had 100 to 120 guys in the team at any point during the year. 20 to 25 of them I'd be really good friends with. So I had my crew, and then as I got more experience in that social setting, I had lots of in-group support. And as I rose in the hierarchy, because I produced more or was a better player or contributed more, then people, respected me. I got the opportunity to mentor people, etc. The coaches who were adult men, looked fondly upon me, and I looked up to them because they were good people. So there's this vertical chain of men and also like all the people around, like a good social group in which I was a part of. And so in my last year at university, I had a girlfriend who was quite philosophical, and she was introspective. And we were at a Starbucks in Vancouver, and I was sitting across from her, and she said, "Are you happy?" And I thought about it, and I said, "Yeah, I'm actually happy." And I had the intuition that over the last few years, that my happiness was increasing. And maybe happiness is the wrong term, because it's kind of it's like an emotion you feel in the moment, but a sense of, I didn't have a sense of heaviness on my shoulders. Maybe that's a good way to put it. I didn't feel a sense of dread. I felt a sense of the future was good, and she sort of dug down a bit. She said, like, why do you feel like that? Like, what is it specifically about your life now that makes that true? And I was like, oh, well, I'm just a happy guy, whatever. But after thinking about it for a few seconds, I said, oh, I think it's because my relationships are really good. My familial relationships are good. My family, I spend a lot of time. I focus on that. My social, or romantic relationship at that point was really good with this person. So that was good. No drama. And then the third piece was that I had like a really strong friend. And in football was work for me, right? I got paid to be there to an extent. So it was like my work/social life was very robust. I had a strong in-group. I had a tribe. I was part of the community, right? And a valued person in that community. And that was, so I essentially had this strong sense of self-worth and a good sense of feeling that my life was worthwhile and things were looking positive. But I had $0 in my bank account. I had like a summer job that didn't pay very well. I used to work for the radio station as like the hype guy. So I'd show up and be like, "You want some swag?" I wasn't making money at all. My career prospects were low. And then football, I'm injured all the time. Like, it's kind of a ridiculous life looking back at that. But for sure, that was an extremely happy period of my life. But I had this feeling that I needed to go and do crazy things and see crazy things and go on adventures and live for the story. I had philosophically that was a superior way to live, because I thought, well, as long as the work is meaningful, then happiness be damned. So it is true that I think if your work is meaningful, like if you find yourself, a Ukrainian in the Ukrainian war, like your life ain't going to be happy, but it'll be very meaningful. So I'm talking about happiness. I'm not talking about meaning per se, because if the work you're doing or the things you're pursuing in your life are super meaningful, that might not bring happiness per se. It's like working on the nuclear bomb during World War II might not have been happy work, but it was meaningful because you're like, I'm gonna win the war for the Allies kind of thing. It's heavy, but it's meaningful. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm just talking about like generic happiness, So I thought I'm gonna pursue this meaningful work, but also come back with stories, right? So I became a police officer in our federal police in Canada, and I worked all over the place. 1 year here, 1 year there, up in the north, in big cities, etc. And I got lots of really crazy stories. So if you invite me to the dinner party, you will be entertained. I've got good stories. And when I'm in those moments, when I've come back and I've told my stories to my friends, I feel like I'm providing good value. Like my entertainment value is high. It's a good invite to the dinner party. But I don't get to maintain those relationships because for every year that I lived in a community, I'd have to move community after community. I'd spend 1 or 2 years max and then leave and have to restart again. And so in the working context, it was nice to work with police officers who were switched on, and I became friends with people, but everyone was transient. You're going to leave in a year. I'm going to leave in 6 months. Like, why do we need to be friends? Because we'll never see each other again, in theory. So I made good friends here and there because I'm pretty social, but for the most part, it was transactional relationships, not something long-term that you're going to build over, 40 years. And I remember I had one girlfriend when I lived in a remote community, and she had a father who was an Italian immigrant who worked as a janitor. He was like a manager of janitors in a school system in Ontario. And he came up and he was like, Fraser, your life is crazy. And I said, what do you mean? And I was maybe 26, 27 at this time. He goes, you're always moving. Like, I would not be happy in that scenario. And I said, well, what makes you happy? And in my mind, again, I was younger, I was dumber then. And I was like, oh, you're like the janitor guy. I'm like this like hotshot federal police guy. And I'm doing crazy stuff and like saving cats out of trees, like running around, looking cool. And like my ego was big, maybe less so now. And he said to me, he goes, well, when I moved from Italy, I didn't know many people. I made friends with 4 other Italian guys. And every Friday night from like 7 p.m., if I'm paraphrasing, from like 7 p.m. to midnight, we meet at this one particular Italian restaurant in Toronto, and we have a good time. And then like we drink, we like eat pizza or whatever, eat Italian food. And then he's like, that's it. He goes, that's why I'm happy. He's like, I've met those, he's about maybe 60 at the time. So he's like, I've met those friends since I like moved when I was 17, like for like a very long time, like 40 years, 50 years, whatever the timing was. But it was like decades of that routine and having a strong family situation as well. And so we had these core friends, and he was like genuine. He was just like a happy dude. And I thought, it's just like the Starbucks situation. I had those good friends. I had the situation, but like I've left that now, and now I'm transient. I'm moving like all the time. And I thought, I've made a big mistake here because this guy makes no money comparatively. Like he's doing okay financially. He's just kind of putting along. So from an objective point of view, maybe you could articulate that I was more successful, but this guy was genuinely happy. And so if he was okay with the work, if it was meaningful enough for him, that would be okay. And this was a key moment for me, but I had committed to getting the stories. So I was convinced, but I didn't action it. And so then I went from like crazy policing stories to even crazier Interpol stories, which was like the extreme version of what I was doing. So now I lived in Singapore, like in Asia, but every 2 weeks I'd travel. So it was 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out. And I was going to bizarre places, like remote places in Africa, really remote places in Asia, like, drive 6 hours out of a rural airport and live in a police station on the top of a mountain in Nepal, like those kind of situations. So again, my dinner stories are on point. Like if you hear some of my stories, you'll be very entertained. But I was now even more extended. So my core group of friends, let's say, and my family and romantic partners even, now I was seeing them instead of once a year, like let's say friends in Vancouver where I went to university, instead of once a year, now it's every 2 years or 3 years. And now I'm way too extended. So eventually my Interpol contract concluded, good experience, and I got a remote role, but I came back to my hometown and I coached football and it was really nice. I got to see all my old friends again, and I just kind of sat in that. So I was doing work that I thought was meaningful, which was like law enforcement related stuff, but online and like in the crypto space, let's say. I was also coaching football, which I really like. And then I also got to see all my old high school friends again, but not just see them once a year, but for 3 months, I was like, I'm going to make it a real process to focus on relationship. And I noticed that, again, the meaningfulness of the work, like I like to coach. That's awesome. I liked the work I was doing. It was meaningful. And then it just, because it was remote, it allowed me to come back to my social group. And can say I was only there for 3 months. My 3-month window, because I really focused on the relationships, I'm like, I'm going to call these people often. I'm going to see them weekly. I'm going to like really put the work in with those old relationships, which for guys, it's easy. Boom. It's like, I see you. It's like we're back in high school. During that 3-month window, I can say confidently that my happiness was as if I was back in that university scenario in that Starbucks with my ex-girlfriend, talking about how happy I was. I was right back into it because the relationships were there. The work I was doing was meaningful. It's the same as when I was in university. Like the football was meaningful for me. The sport was meaningful. So I felt happy, and that had nothing to do with anything materialistic. And actually, in actual fact, I was living in my parents' basement, which is sad. The rent was free and like the food was free. So I'm all about that. My mom was doing my laundry, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's embarrassing. But I was super happy, which goes to say that I can have a big house in Singapore, or I'm in Bali right now. I can live in a nice villa, whatever. But unless you have those strong relationship cues, I think happiness will evade you, you know? So don't do what I've done and just kind of bounce around endlessly, because I meet a lot of expats right now. I do some venture capitalist stuff as well. So I'm meeting the international community who always are around, like just floating around. And to a T, I would say, if I get deep enough with them and they say, oh, like, do you like the lifestyle of just endlessly moving or not being able to be stuck in one particular spot to build those long-term relationships that iterate over time? With the exception of one person in my mind, almost everyone says that that lifestyle is not geared for happiness. So I think when I go back home to my small hometown, when I'm talking to friends and I have the crazy stories, I'll occasionally get the comment like, oh, I wish I had your life. Like, that's so cool. Like, and I would say that, oh, it sounds cool because it sounded cool to me. That's why I did it. But there's a cost, and the cost is happiness. So I'm happy with my career. I'm happy with what I've done. I've done meaningful work. At Interpol, I was saving people. Like, I wasn't just going around looking around. I was actually like saving people from human trafficking, saving people from terrible crimes. Like, if it's at Interpol, it's bad, right? Like, that's like the worst of the worst. So I've done lots of good stuff. I've done meaningful work that I can put my head on the pillow and be happy with. But was happiness there for me? Maybe on my Instagram, it looks like I'm super happy because I'm just doing random stuff. You see like the selfie on top of the mountain, it looks cool. But I would say that there's a cost to that. And it's that you're fragmented. You don't have a core in-group. You don't have a core group of friends that stays together over a long period of time. And being transactional there is a high cost for that. So now I'm kind of blending the two. I do lots of stuff abroad, but I really make sure I focus on the relationships that matter to me, both romantic, familial, like family relationships, and then friends as well. So now I'm in a nice equilibrium. I feel like I've got the happiness aspect, but I also feel like I've got the adventure, that call for adventure, that not the materialistic, but it could be materialistic, like the career-orientated orientation in my life is still there, but I'm just making sure that the relationships sit on top of that I'm not burning those relationships just for the story, because the story is transient. Those people would like me either way, whether I'm successful or not. When I go back to my hometown, no one says, Fraser, you've made it. Like, no one gives a shit. They just want to be like, what's up, bro? So no one cares what you've done, really. If it's important to you, do it, but do not sacrifice your relationships. That's my opinion. And I haven't, and thank God I didn't, because I think now as I'm older, the relationships clearly are on top of the stories. And I've got enough to tell anyways that I don't need any more. So I'm continuing doing both blending, and we'll see how it goes for me. But that's my thoughts on the matter so far. I don't know, does that resonate with you? Let me know in the comments if this is relevant or not. I can do some more content on this topic as well. But yeah, that's it. I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next video.